the deserted track, and the man who wanted a fight. Motorland Aragon at dawn. The air was 14 degrees Celsius, dry enough to sting, thin enough to make every sound carry. The circuitlet lay silent, the grandstands empty, the echoes of June's Grand Prix already ghosts. On that cold Monday morning, Yamaha rolled out their future. Not the inline-4 relic that's been laughed out of slipstreams for years, but the brand new V4 engine. And walking toward it was Toprak Razgatlioglu, the Turkish storm who had spent a decade terrorizing the superbike world. He wasn't here to smile for photos. He was here to bleed time into data. Yamaha's garage smelled like a cross between new carbon and fear. Engineers murmured over laptops, checking telemetry like gamblers praying over dice. This wasn't just a test, it was an exorcism. The company had been humiliated in MotoGP for too long. Fabio Quartararo had screamed into microphones all year about straight-line death, about a bike that killed his confidence before he even hit top gear. The M1, once a surgeon's blade, had become a wooden bat. Now, under the cold Aragon sun, Yamaha wanted to prove that the V4 would erase that humiliation, and they picked the one man who never forgets a grudge. Toprak climbed on, flexed his hands, and slammed the visor shut. 33 laps later, the stopwatch told a story colder than the air. 1 minute 49.176 seconds. The first bite of the V4 beast. The world champion in the other garage, the man Yamaha had once called its savior, Fabio Quartararo had gone through the same corners months earlier, qualifying 9th at the Aragon Grand Prix with a 1 minute 46.441, 2.735 seconds faster. A lifetime in MotoGP terms. Toprak's debut with the V4 wasn't just a shakedown. It was Yamaha's mirror moment, their fastest future against their haunted present. Was this test a beginning or a warning? Comment your first reaction below. A history of mistakes written in 4 cylinders. For years, Yamaha's engineers had built engines like poets. Beautiful, lyrical, fragile. The inline-4 layout was their religion. Smooth delivery, elegant cornering, and the illusion of control. But MotoGP had moved on. Ducati turned its Desmo Sedici into a guided missile. KTM copied the madness. Aprilia followed suit. While others evolved, Yamaha kept painting inside the same lines and expected the world to applaud the nostalgia. By 2025, it wasn't nostalgia. It was negligence. Quartararo, the golden boy of 2021, was stuck wrestling a bike that no longer scared anyone. His 1:46.441 in Aragon qualifying, good enough for 9th, said everything. On his best day, he was still chasing the mid-pack Ducatis down the straight. His body language told the truth. Frustration, loyalty, exhaustion. The Yamaha that once danced was now drowning. Toprak watched all this from a different kingdom. On BMW's World Superbike weapon, he just claimed a 3rd title, 2 of them back-to-back. Every braking zone was a knife fight, every apex an act of dominance. He left Yamaha's production paddock years ago because he hated slow bikes. He said it plainly in 2022, the Yamaha has no top speed. It's dead in the straights. Yet here he was, 3 years later, back with Yamaha, but not to save them. He came to test his power against their promise. Pramac would host him from 2026, but before that, Yamaha wanted his verdict. Could the V4 finally erase the shame? They brought test riders Andrea Dovizioso and Augusto Fernandez to shake down the bike on Sunday. On Monday, the storm climbed aboard. He found a machine that sounded angrier than the old one, but behaved like it still remembered being polite. The torque hit differently, the engine braking bit deeper, yet the Michelin front refused to obey his signature braking violence. In World SBK, Toprak could stop time with the front lever. In MotoGP, the front Michelin punishes arrogance. The same technique that made him king now made him clumsy. The stopwatch didn't care about explanations. 1:49.176. Yamaha's V4 wasn't slow by accident. It was slow because evolution hurts. A prototype needs time, telemetry, and temper. But the contrast, 2.735 seconds between old master and new student, would sting every engineer in Iwata. Was the gap mechanical or was it spiritual? Was Yamaha trying to build speed or just to build hope? The stopwatch doesn't lie. You could hear it, the growl of the V4 echoing off Aragon's stone walls. Raw, unfinished, desperate. Toprak attacked every braking zone like it owed him money. Into turn 1, the rear lifted. Into turn 8, the front protested. By turn 16, he was wrestling the electronics instead of riding them. Lap after lap, he found tenths, never miracles. 33 rounds, each one a negotiation between instinct and restraint. Yamaha's engineers watched data spikes instead of body language. They saw lean angles, brake pressures, throttle percentages. They saw numbers. What they didn't see was fear. Because Toprak doesn't do fear, he just does violence. The best lap, the 149.176, came on a run where tire temperature and rhythm finally aligned. The telemetry said he was still coasting 0.3 longer into corners than Quartararo would, braking 8 meters earlier into turn 12, and running the throttle 4% gentler out of the hairpins. In MotoGP, that's eternity. Quartararo's Aragon qualifying lap from June had been a masterpiece of desperation. He wrung the dying inline four like a man milking the last heartbeat of a legend. 146.441, a lap carved with precision and frustration. He didn't have power, but he had faith in the corner speed that once defined Yamaha. Now that faith has expired. Toprak's V4 version was supposed to erase excuses. Instead, it exposed the gap between worlds, the superbike dominator learning MotoGP's new physics, and the old Grand Prix hero living with the corpse of yesterday's philosophy. When Alex Espargaro tested Honda's prototype on the same day and dropped a 148.631, Yamaha's garage fell silent. A Honda test mule, the brand everyone thought was lost, went half a second faster than their future. Toprak stepped off the bike, unbothered. He's seen slower revolutions. He simply said, "We have work." And that's the truth. Yamaha didn't want broadcast. The stopwatch doesn't care about branding, legacy, or hope. It only cares about the cold sum of corners. Who broke first, the tires, the nerves, or Yamaha's illusions? Comment below. When the numbers start to bleed, every project in MotoGP begins with promises. The V4 was supposed to be Yamaha's apology to its riders, its engineers, its fans. But Aragon turned that apology into arithmetic pain. The headlines screamed the 2.735-second gap like a crime scene measurement. The excuses arrived faster than the laps. Cold track, low grip, first day, new electronics, outdated tires. All valid, none convincing. Because under every excuse lies the same confession. Yamaha is years behind. When Ducati switched to V4 power, they didn't just change engines, they changed culture. They built an army of data engineers, aerodynamicists, and test riders who knew how to torture a machine until it confessed speed. Yamaha spent that same time arguing about philosophy. Toprak's entry exposes that gap brutally. His braking habits aren't wrong, they're just from another era. He's trying to impose his will on a tire that punishes confidence. In World SBK, he used to say, "If the bike moves, it's alive." In MotoGP, movement equals time loss. The discipline of chaos meets the science of silence. That's the war Yamaha has to win, not between riders, but between instincts. Quartararo's lap stands like a warning sign. Even with an engine that belonged in a museum, he could still be 2.7 seconds faster than a triple world champion testing the next generation. That should terrify Iwata more than it comforts them. Because if the new V4 can't beat the ghost of the old inline 4 within a year, then Yamaha has built evolution that forgot speed. By evening, Aragon was quiet again. The garage lights flickered. Mechanics packed up data cards. Mechanics stared at the floor. Toprak walked out in silence, helmet bag slung low, the way only a man with unfinished business walks. He knows what 2.7 seconds means. It's not defeat, it's debt. Was this gravity or the tax of invincibility? Comment your take below. The debt Yamaha owes time. Let's strip sentiment and read the ledger. Toprak Razgatlioglu, Aragon V4 test, 149.176. Fabio Quartararo, Aragon GP qualifying, 146.441. Gap, 2.735 seconds. Temperature difference, 14 degrees Celsius versus 47 to 50 degrees Celsius. Track evolution easily worth 0.6 to 0.8 seconds. Remaining deficit, almost 2 seconds of raw adaptation and engineering lag. That's the truth Yamaha must face before Sepang 2026. The V4 concept isn't the problem. The problem is belief. Yamaha spent half a decade insisting that their inline-4 philosophy was still holy. It's like switching from poetry to hip-hop overnight. You can't just change rhythm. You have to change soul. Toprak's job isn't to fix Yamaha, it's to show them the cost of their denial. His braking ferocity, his corner commitment, his refusal to submit, all of that will reshape how the engineers think about power delivery. He'll break the bike before he breaks his habits, and that's precisely what Yamaha needs. Fabio Quartararo, meanwhile, will read these numbers in quiet rage. For 5 years, he's begged for this V4. Now someone else, a World SBK king, is the first to taste it. He'll see that 2.7-second gap not as reassurance, but as insult. Because if Yamaha can't give him a faster machine than their rookie tester's mule, his patience expires. The comparison is brutal but necessary. Toprak and Fabio are the two extremes of Yamaha's soul, chaos versus precision. The future of the brand depends on fusing those opposites before 2026 testing begins in Valencia. By then, Toprak will no longer be just a guest. He'll be the face of Yamaha's second life, riding under Promac's flag, answering only to lap times. And that's when this 2.7-second truth will either look like a first step or the beginning of another failure. From now, where does this put them? The time will tell us. Comment below. Subscribe for more savage breakdowns.